Rebecca, if you've opened the meeting, your video, your audio is not on.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We called the meeting to order. We have a quorum with all of our regular members except Kurt and Kathy who is sitting in as an alternate, and we are standing for the pledge.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have one added agenda item. I would entertain a motion to add the staff memo from the walkthrough at the solar gravel pit. Just for a status report to be added to 7 for agent review reports and decisions.
A motion to add the staff memo for the solar gravel pit to our agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have one new application we received, which is IWWA 12-2023 8 Mill Street, request for a permit for the delimit dump. Wow, I'm sorry, hold on, I'm gonna make this bigger. Demolish of 5 buildings within regulated upland review area. And oh, we skipped the
Yeah, we missed something.
yeah, sorry, we missed the approval of meeting minutes.
So we jumped back.
We'll jump back really quick. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 6th of 2023, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. New application to be received is IWWA 12-2023 for 8 Mill Street, request for a permit for the demolition of 5 buildings within a regulated upland review area. Owner is Hamilton Standard Controls, INC, applicant is Hamilton Standard Corporation, map 087, block 37 and lot 008. Who do we have to represent that one? Come on up and just state your name for the record, please.
Sure.
And I think there's a board over there if you want to grab that.
Kurt Bocharana from Lorero Engineering Associates, professional engineer representing the applicant. Can everybody see here? Is this okay?
You could bring it up to the middle if you like.
Whatever works for you. So, as mentioned, this project is a demolition project to demolish the old mill building at the site. No work is proposed within the wetland area. There is a small amount of work proposed in the upland review area. The reason that the owner wants to demolish the site is the state of disrepair. One of the buildings has collapsed and it really represents a safety hazard. So really, this is, from their perspective, considered sort of an emergency action. They'd like to get their work done before the winter time because it is a dangerous condition. They're worried about the portion of the building that's collapsed, homeless people, trespassers, fire, etc. The project will essentially encompass the full site. Foundations will remain in the ground and be filled in. That will minimize the on-site disturbance. All of the material that's demolished will be removed from the site. Nothing will be buried or left on the site. The foundations will be demolished, so they're below the grade. The site will be fully stabilized once done. The existing roadway will be used. E&S measures, anti-tracking pad, wattles with silt fence. So we have 2 wattles and silt fence combination along the wetland area. Catch basin inserts, temporary storage as materials are stockpiled for loading, but nothing will be left on the site long term. It's estimated that the active demolition will probably take place over a 1-week period, so a pretty quick process. And then following that, the material will be moved out and the site stabilized. Overall, probably less than 3 weeks in and out for the whole project. So happy to answer any questions you may have. I know you just received the application, but glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from anybody on the board? Go ahead.
Does that include removing the contaminated soils?
At this time, it does not. This is just to get the building down because of the safety issues. That would be done in concert with Connecticut Deep. That would not be part of this process at present.
Because it's been years we've been waiting for that to come. Wait some more, by the way, not in there.
Yeah. Yep, I have nothing to do with that, so.
I got one thing I'm gonna pick on you. On your JMM report, the cover page.
Yep.
Says 8 Mill Street, East Granby, Connecticut.
Okay,
We need to get on board with the correct tone.
sure, we can tell them to fix that.
Would you correct that, please?
Absolutely.
See, we do read them.
I will certainly pass that on.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You get to act on this tonight, boss, later?
We just need to accept the,
Yeah, we do need to.
There's a 14-day wait.
There is.
It gives an opportunity for people to petition for a hearing.
Well, you know what? I'll meet in 14 days.
Once we can't advertise, then
Or the weather gets us.
if you don't get a petition for a hearing, then it'll be the next meeting.
we can accept it tonight.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, there is the option that you could. If, and it's all completely up to the commission, if you decide that it could be an agent decision to administer by Danielle.
I think we ought to have it do as full permit.
Yeah. The whole-
So then, the 14 days will start for today.
Okay,
We'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to, receive the application.
Okay, make a motion to accept the application IWWA 12-2023 8 Mill Street. Request for a permit of demolition of 5 buildings within a regulated upland review area. Owner Hamilton Standard Controls Inc. Applicant Hamilton Sunstrand Corporation. Whatever. Area 087. B is 37L008, whatever that is, but. yeah.
Map block lot.
Not block, well, they forgot to put it down. I didn't abbreviate it, you know, I think I got it all.
I think so.
Yep.
Osborne seconds, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rebecca, who was your second?
Osborne. You want to?
Thank you.
Assume that.
Oh, yeah.
You got someone to be front and center.
Is that an overstatement on his part, or do you think that pretty much is the pitch down the middle?
No, I think it's exactly right, Laura, when you think of the attacks that are being made on freedom of.
Okay, then we are going to move on to the public hearing. I think it's the tiniest paper back in the world. The tiny one, look at it off. All right, public hearing. Public hearing is for IWWA 11-2023 for Board Road approximate, no address assigned yet. Map 114, block 17, lot 016 for a permit for a new single-family construction with a barn and a pond in regulated wetlands and upland review area. Owner is Douglas J. and Angela E. Miller. Applicant is J. Ursery. Agent for J.R. Rutry and Associates. This first, that's right. Yeah, all right. So welcome to tonight's meeting of the East Windsor Inland Wetlands Watercourse Agency Commission meeting. My name is Rebecca Davis. I'm the chairman of the commission, and I would like to take a few minutes to explain the format of this meeting. Also be advised this meeting is being recorded on Zoom and will be posted to the town website. Tonight's meeting will be composed of 2 parts for the public hearing and a public meeting. During the public hearing, the first thing we will do is read the public notice into the record. Then we will list and briefly describe the documents received in the file. The applicant will then present the application to us in detail, which will allow the commission members and the public a better opportunity to understand what is being proposed. Commission members may ask questions during this presentation, then we will ask members of the public who support the application to speak. After this, we will ask the members of the public who oppose the application to speak. Lastly, we will allow those who do not wish to be classified to support or oppose the application to come forward and ask any additional online comments. We do, nobody else is in the way here, so we're good. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand, wait for the chair to recognize you, and then either unmute your microphone or come towards the podium. Please state your name for the record and speak into the microphone, which is just above you, so just speak normal. Address all comments to the chair and not to the applicant directly or to members of the public. Be advised that this is your opportunity to speak and ask questions and make comments on the application, but once the hearing has been closed, no additional testimony from the public or applicant will be permitted. After this, we will hold a public meeting. We will deliberate on the application submitted to us and decide to act on them. The commission may approve the application as submitted, approve the stipulations and conditions or modifications, table action to do a future meeting, in rare cases deny the application. 3 alternative affirmative votes from the commission are generally required to approve the application. If you need to leave the meeting before any decisions are rendered, you may call the Office of Planning and Development Department tomorrow at the phone number 860-623-6030 to get results of tonight's meeting. So let's begin tonight with the public hearing. I get to read the legal notice. So legal notice for East Windsor Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency. East Windsor Wetlands Inland Watercourse Agency will hold the following public hearing on Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Details regarding how to attend will be published to the IWWA Commission's agenda and will be made available on the town's website. For IWWA permit 11-2023, permit to conduct activity in regulated area, Borough Road, no assigned address. Owner is Douglas J. and Angela E. Miller. Applicant is J. Ursery from J.R. Russo and Associates. Construction of a new single-family home with a barn and a pond in the regulated areas, map 114, block 17, lot 016, zone A1. A full copy of the application is available in the Inland Wetlands Watercourse Agency's website on the town website, webpage on the town website. Any interested persons may attend this meeting to provide verbal or written comments regarding the application. Public hearing, Hearst publication, it's from September 19th, 2023 and September 25th, 2023. On September 6th, so our last meeting, we received the application for the new construction from J.R. Russo and Associates on behalf of the owner, which included plan set septic system plan for Borough Road, map 114, block 17, lot 016 of East Windsor CT 06088. Prepared for Douglas and J. and Angela E. Miller, prepared by J.R. Russo and Associates, LLC, 1 Shulm Road, East Windsor, Connecticut, 06088, date issued September 1st, 2023, including 2 pages, and also an inland wetland soils report prepared by Richard Zulik of Datum Engineering and Surveying LLC of August 22nd, 2023. At this time, we'll hear the applicant for the presentation of the project. Come on up, Jay.
Good evening, J.R. Russo and Associates, here representing the owners, Doug and Angela Miller. I've got a little colored handout 11 by 17 here, which one of you might be a little easier to see on that. I think there's enough there to go around. Doug and Angela are here as well, and his parents, I think, sitting behind them as well, who were probably, I'm gonna guess, maybe built the first house on Borough Road, I'm thinking, which is right here, which is where Doug was brought up. There's 2 houses on Borough Road, and one across the street, it's still in the family, I believe. So it's kind of a family street, I guess, if you will, and gonna continue that way, hopefully, if we get an approval tonight, and Doug and Angela can build their new home next door. So this is a 6-acre parcel roughly. It's on the east side of Borough. North side is the trolley track. And literally right around the corner from Winkler Road. So if you were to come off Winkler Road and come down Bora, as soon as you cross the trolley track, this parcel is immediate on your left-hand side. You go a little further, you'll see the house, which is 38 Bora, which is the house that Doug's parents built and where Doug grew up, which was right next door here. Has since been sold, actually not that long ago, a couple of years. And that's located here. Located behind us or off to the east or southeast, Newberry Village is here. This is the conservation easement area of Newberry. Those of you who were on the commission back when that was approved may remember that there was essentially an open space conservation easement wrapped around that entire development. It's about 70 to 80 acres in size roughly. And this is the most westerly or northwesterly portion right along the back property line here from Newberry. There's two single family home lots located over here a little bit further to the east. Those were also part of that same Newberry property. Was not part of the condo, but I think they developed about 5 or 6 homes on Winkler Road that were all went through this commission that were approved. The homes are out quite a bit further out towards Winkler Road, but this is the backs of those lots. There were larger parcels, but again, encumbered by wetlands, similar to this one here. Immediately here to the north and the east is another piece that's owned by Connecticut Electric Railway or the Trolley Museum. And then there's another little piece out here that's owned by Doug and Angela that's isolated on the other side of the tracks. That gives them a little bit of frontage on Winkler Road. And quite frankly, this was all part of the original Bora property, but when the Boras purchased it, it was after the rail came through, which was 1915 or somewhere around there, Dick, or
That's probably not a railroad.
well, I knew you had some information, but it was certainly 1900s. And it actually, it split the property is what happened. It kind of cut the end of it off between Winkler and this parcel. So this is what's left. It's about 6 acres. As you saw in the report, Rick Zulik did this delineation earlier this year, I guess early this year. I don't remember exactly when. And if you look at the plan that I sent you, you'll see that there's a highlighted blue line here. This is the limit of the actual wetland that he located. And there's a couple of things going on here. We basically got, for the most part, a wooded wetland that's located off here to the east. And again, over here, slightly to the south. The area in the front, which is a designated wetland, is a narrow strip that's essentially a dug ditch. It was dug to create a connection between the wetland here, which is more of an open wetland, kind of a ponded area. It's got wetland plants in it and stuff, but it doesn't have a lot of large trees like the rest of the forest area does. And it's got a pipe that takes the water out of this heading to the west under Bora Road. There's a little brook that swings around over here, very close to the property line. There's 2 new pipes that the town just recently put in to convey the water from the brook under again Bora Road and off to the north and the west. So essentially we've got wooded wetland brook, wooded wetland, more of an open wetland here, 2 pipes crossing the road, and then what I'm going to call the man-made wetland of the ditch that's located here in the front. The reason we're here for the permit, obviously, is we have some wetland disturbance. Certainly, we have activity in the regulated area. We have some disturbance here where we're crossing the ditch along the easterly side of Bora Road. It's about 629 square feet of disturbance there. We've got a pipe shown underneath the driveway here to allow any water that might want to come through to be able to do that. Although, to be honest, I've been out there, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 times in the last 8 to 10 months. And I don't think I've ever seen any water in the ditch. The elevation of the ditch is a little higher. The water got up very high here. Maybe some would come through. The brook here basically comes right through the pipe and goes right across. But we did put a 12-inch pipe in there, so if anything did try to come through, it could still get there. And actually, Len Norton commented on that, and you may have his memo in your packets, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We addressed his comment and sent him a memo back, explained to him what was happening here and how it was working. And I don't know that he responded, he may have.
You did.
He did, okay, I didn't get that, and it may have happened recently, but we did respond to his comment, and we're very comfortable with the 12-inch pipe. And what we're calling an equalization pipe under the driveway to allow free flow that we might want to go through there at any point in time. The other area of disturbance is located right here, just off to the north, very close to the side of the house. It's about 706 square feet of fill. This is a little isolated wetland. It's got one rather large oak tree right in the middle of it. And when Rick first went out there and we looked at it, you know, both Rick and I looked, and I said, Rick, is this a vernal pool? And he said, I don't think so, but he did look, and he's been back there a couple of times since, and his assessment was, no, it's not a vernal pool, it's very small. And in our original design, to be honest, I had some very steep grading off the side of the house, and we didn't touch that. And the more we looked at it, the more we thought, well, it's not really realistic to think that that's going to stay there. There's some trees here that need to be cleared because they're so close to the house. And we decided that, why don't we propose filling that? I talked to Rick about it. He didn't think it was an issue. He goes, but you're going to have to provide some mitigation to do that. So what we've done here is we've created a pond that's located off here to the north of the area that essentially kind of wraps around and is adjacent to this more open wetland that's here. And this pond is a little over 6,000 square feet, 6,530, I guess, exactly. And we're proposing that it'll become a wetland, and it's going to provide, if you read Rick's letter, some diversity in the wetland community that we have here. So rather than have what's basically for the most part a wooded wetland, now we're going to have some open water, some different type of habitat that isn't currently there, that'll be adjacent to this wetland area here, pretty close to the rest of the wooded wetland that's off here in the east. So if you look at this, we're a little over 1,300 square feet of disturbance, and we're providing a 6,500 square feet of mitigation for that disturbance and the creation of the pond. And Rick talks about that in his memo, and I'm assuming that get the revised memo from Rick. I did send it over the 19th. Hopefully you did.
It's in my email.
Okay. And he talks a little bit about the mitigation on page 3 of his report. And he says the creation of the pond will enlarge and enhance the wetland complex on the subject property. The addition of the proposed pond will add additional diversity to the wetland and mitigate the proposed spill and disturbance. In summary, it's my opinion that the development proposed for this lot will have no significant negative impact on functions and values of the wetland complex. So that was his assessment after he went through and described his soils investigation and so forth as to what he found here and the typical soil classifications. We also did soil testing with the health district in the North Central. That testing was done over here, essentially southerly and easterly of the house and southerly of the barn. The soils here essentially are very sandy loams to sand to silt to eventually clay. The upper strata probably down to about 26 inches, 24, 26. So 24 to about 28, 29 inches is very, very sandy, essentially almost droughty soil. We didn't hit any water until we got down into the, let's see here. Probably over 50 inches. We were over 50 inches before we hit any water. That was just seepage at the very, very bottom of the test pits, and these were done on June 27th. To be honest, I was expecting the water table maybe be a little higher, but it wasn't. It's pretty evident as to where the water table was based on the modeling. So in terms of the septic system and the design of the septic system, it's pretty simple. It's good soil, excellent percolation test. System will function perfectly. We've got a primary and a reserve area. North Central has reviewed it and approved it. And you may or may not have that in your memo because Wes from West Metro, who was a great guy. Was on vacation on a trip for 3 weeks and he got back Monday. And I sent him an email and he reviewed it, and sent us a letter and we got an approval. So I was very happy to see that. So anyway, septic systems are working fine here, no issues. Water table being a little deeper than expected allowed us to get the house a little bit deeper into the ground, which is always helpful. So no issues with septic. Obviously, we are going to have a well that's located out here off in the front corner, out of the septic area influence. And it's fairly simple in terms of its layout, grading, clearing and so forth. I guess what I would equate it to is it's very similar to Newberry Village, and we've got wetlands, and then we've got pods of uplands where we're able to place buildings, work around the wetlands, get in infrastructure and drainage and so forth. In that case over there, we have sewers. This is very similar, as the land is very similar. Newberry Village property was, as Rick probably remembers, and yeah. I see people shaking their heads who are familiar with it. It was a very one piece of land, and I'll just follow it up with a little quick story. We were contacted 2 times at our office to design Newberry Village, and we said no twice. The third time when they came back, we said, talked with them again, and we said, well, all right, we'll give it a try. I mean, we'll see what we can do with it, but it's really a very wet piece. I'm not sure that it can be developed. And now when I drive through there, I kind of look at it and I go, boy, this is pretty nice. I think I could live here. Because if somebody who likes the outdoors, which I do, I'm kind of an outdoors person, where you can live in a place like that, and you're basically surrounded by wildlife. They don't leave. There were a few species there that they had to be careful of, and George Logan was involved, some of you know. But this is a similar piece of land, only obviously on a much smaller scale.
There's a house going up there, you can buy it.
Anyway, like I said, I'm not so sure that my wife is ready to move, so if I live there, I might be alone, and I don't think but at any rate, it's again, a similar piece of land, and a very similar type of wetland, wooded wetlands, and which basically surrounds this whole area. Warren Road, everything looking back to the east, back down towards Newberry, and even to some extent beyond Newberry when you get down into the industrial park. It's all kind of similar. Same thing on the other side of the foothill. But again, we're pretty happy with the way it worked out. We think we put a good plan together. We said we've got health department approval. We've got a review from your town engineer who's comfortable with it, and we've got Rick Zulik who is also comfortable with what we've done. So all of that said, if anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Open it up to the board if there's any questions or comments.
I'll start with one. It's kind of hard to tell from here, but it looks like, I'm wondering where, like, are you gonna reuse the excavation material from the pond around the house? It looks like it's coming up a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It's coming up, and there is gonna be some fill required around this, and it's good sandy material, and you're exactly right. You'll be able to use it.
All stay right there.
Stay right here. That works. It works well.
Yeah.
It works well.
You're gonna have a little deep pond there.
It has a little depth to it, which is, like I said, it creates some diversity.
Better off than.
The one thing that it will be able to do is it'll provide some open water, like you see when we do a D10 basin design where we've got a planting shelf, but then we've typically got a water quality volume of 4 to 5 feet of depth in the middle of it. And when you get that kind of depth, you don't get the vegetative growth. You're not going to get the cattails. You're not going to get the phragmites. You're going to get the open water. And very likely in this, you're going to get fish. It's just a matter of time before the eggs get in there, and we'll end up with fish, and probably Doug and Angela's grandkids will be fishing or something. I'm guessing, but we'll see.
Is it gonna have like a berm around it?
No, it's basically just an excavation in the ground. No, there's no burn.
I don't think you want them there.
No, I agree.
A little damp there sometimes.
Any other comments or questions from the board? All right, if any members of the public who support the application would like to speak, go ahead and stand up to the podium. Oh, sorry, we have to vote to open the public hearing. I wasn't on here.
She did, don't you usually vote to open and vote to close?
Oh, yeah,
Public comment first, right, on the hearing.
Let's run through all that. And then get through the public hearing.
We probably should have opened it then.
Excuse me.
oh, we needed a motion for that.
That's okay, we can do it now.
Okay. We make a motion.
Make it, you can. Yeah, make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Osborne to open the public.
Okay.
Now I would open it up to the floor for anyone who is supporting of the project and would like to speak. Go ahead, get up to the podium and just state your name for the record, please.
My name is James Miller. I used to live on Borough Road. I know the area. I'm a strong supporter of this. I think the design and the bond and everything is gonna help the wetlands out in that area. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? For supporting. Okay, moving on. If there are any speakers or anyone that would like to speak to oppose the project, feel free to stand up. Seeing none, and nothing online, right? No, just time on here.
Expansion two.
Anyone on Zoom that would like to speak? You may unmute yourself. Hearing none. Are there any additional comments from the public? And any final comments from the staff?
The memo that you have in hand that Danielle Miller wrote summarizes the presentation that you heard from Jay Ursery. An update would be that we did receive the approval from the health department today, so there's an update to that. And then she has provided a motion for your consideration.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
All in favor?
right,
Aye.
All right. And now we are going to open the public meeting portion of this. Would anyone like to make any final comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion. Did you yell about the whole motion or just? Do you have that?
yep,
Yeah.
you want it, ready?
If you guys are ready.
Okay, make a motion to approve IWWA number 11-2023, permit to construct activity in a regulated area, Bork Road, no assigned address, owners Douglas J. and Angela E. Miller, applicant J. Usury for J.R. Russo Associates, construction of a new single-family home with a barn and a pond in a regulated area, map 114, block 17, lot 016, zone A1, with the standard conditions 1 through 14. Let's start and close.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Nope.
Thank you.
You guys are all set, thank you.
Hopefully the well will be shallow.
All right, moving on, we have no continued public hearings. We have no new business, we have no old business, so moving swiftly along to the miscellaneous, we have to review our 2024 schedule of IWWA meetings. Are there any issues that we need to resolve, or is everything good as presented?
I didn't see the schedule, but it's usually the same. First one.
It's Wednesday of every month.
Give the schedule of bench plan.
It should be in your packet. If-
I didn't
not-
see it, I'll dig through it.
Okay. I don't think we can make a motion on those, do we? Should we do? I would entertain a motion to accept the schedule as presented.
And so moved, yeah, now I got it. Thank you.
Osborne seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty, moving along to the agent reviews, reports and decisions. Take it away, Ruth.
Okay, so we have some folks from Ty and Bond here. We have Matt Regan and Gil. And they are going to review their report on the conceptual mitigation plan or restoration plan for the South Main Street property, 222, 232. And we have Robert Levin, who is representing the property owner.
All right,
Also on the call.
Kathy and Dick, do you guys want to come up on this side? You guys can come sit closer.
Yeah, I think
So-
better, I can't.
Matt or Rick? Who should I make propose anything with me?
I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you want to be co-host?
Okay. So, I'll turn my video on quickly. I'm working from home, so I'm a floating head in darkness here.
Are you
Um,
big screen, Rick?
What's that?
Do you have plans to share your screen?
I do. Matt's gonna run through a presentation we put together just to hit the high points of the conceptual plan. So Matt's the one that'll need access to that.
All right, Matt, you can.
Hi, everyone.
At any time. Hi.
All right, let me see if I can share my screen here. One moment. Just going to share it here. Please let me know when you've seen it.
There we go.
Awesome. All right. So like Ruth said, this is the conceptual wetland restoration plan for 222, 232 South Main Street. This photo, I should mention, this is not a pre-fill photo. This is a photo of what the site looks like. I believe this was only a year or two ago. So as you can see, there is an existing wetland that is adjacent to the fill. On the right hand side of the photo, you can see the existing fill, but for the rest of the photo, you can see a wetland. And so that wetland is actually going to serve as a very important reference site to guide the wetland restoration. Okay, so just some background on the site. The first photo on the left, you can see from May 2015. The area that is outlined is the area of fill and disturbance. As of 2015, you can see that it was vegetated. It included areas of wetland. And on March 2021, you can see it's drastically different. You can see that vegetation has been cleared and areas of wetlands have been filled. The East Windsor Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency issued a cease and restore order where fill has been placed over an approximately 2-acre area, and that's the area that is outlined in those figures there. So as you can see on the left here, we have an area overlaid with the inland wetland soils that have been mapped for the state of Connecticut. And on the right, we have the mapped floodplain. So the fill is within an area that has been mapped as inland wetland soils and as a floodplain. So this is a violation because it did not receive permitting or approval for the appropriate floodplain and inland wetland regulations, as well as the U.S. Army Corps regulations under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. So Time Bond actually did a forensic soil investigation, going out to test pits, which you can see are all those little red dots that are labeled TP with a number. So those are all test pits to actually look at what constitutes the fill, and just to characterize what the fill material consists of. Based off of an average depth of fill of about 8 feet, approximately 26,500 cubic yards of fill is present. The fill is primarily sand with silt, gravel, and construction and demolition debris. There's also elevated concentrations of several contaminants above the Connecticut remediation standard regulations. And based on the size of the site meets definition of a solid waste disposal area and is in violation of the Connecticut solid waste regulations. So as a result of this fill, it has impacted wetland functions and values. This has resulted not just in a loss of wetland area, but in a loss of wetland functions and values. So what are those ecosystem services that wetlands provide? So for this particular site, the functions and values that have been impacted include groundwater recharge and discharge, soil infiltration, and the ability to discharge to nearby wetland and stream has been impacted by the fill. Flood flow alteration. Obviously, this is fill in a floodplain, resulting in a loss of flood storage. Sediment and toxin removal. Fill is contributing sediment and toxins directly to the adjacent wetlands and watercourses. Nutrient removal. Due to the destruction of vegetation and fill, the wetland is no longer removing nutrients from the surrounding landscape, as well as wildlife habitat. Vegetation removal and the fill have led to habitat loss for wildlife. So the goals and objectives for the wetland restoration plan are really 3 main goals: are fill removal, wetland restoration, and stream restoration. First thing, obviously, is fill removal. We want to ensure that the contaminated fill is removed, handled, and disposed of in accordance with all applicable environmental laws and regulations. Second goal, wetland restoration. We want to restore the impaired wetland functions and to reestablish the pre-existing forested/scrub shrub wetland that was present. And also stream restoration. We want to restore hydrologic connectivity to the unfilled wetland that's adjacent to the site, as well as restore flood storage capacity, because again, this site is within the floodplain. So first, for fill removal, what needs to be done is develop a remedial action plan. Additional soil sampling may be required to accurately assess the depth of fill. While we did say that we're assuming an average depth of 8 feet here, that's only based off of the test pits that we have done, that Time Bond has performed, but additional soil sampling and test pits may be required to accurately characterize the full extent of the fill. And also in regards to fill removal, special soil management procedures for excavating contaminated soil are required. Like I said, there are several contaminants in the soil, so those will require special attention. Also, native wetland soil beneath the fill may be contaminated or have debris present. So again, these are things that will limit the potential success of the wetland restoration. It's not just removing the fill, but also what's underneath the fill that needs to be taken into account and taken into consideration for there to be successful wetland restoration. So after fill has been removed, one thing that I think is really important is to look at is stream restoration. We really want to reestablish flood storage capacity as well as hydrologic connectivity with the adjacent stream that flows out to the Connecticut River. As part of stream restoration, it's not that easy just to go in and just dig a channel, especially at this site because of the nature of the fill as well as the location. So that's why we're saying that further investigation and analysis are necessary for a successful design. Those types of analyses include a hydrologic analysis, which would characterize the historic flow regime. So what did it look like before it was filled? Geomorphic analysis characterizing the historical channel. So how wide was the channel? How deep was the channel? Was it high flow? Was it low flow? That also leads into a hydraulic analysis, characterizing the interaction between the flow regime and the channel. Furthermore, we would also propose a sediment transport analysis, which would characterize the role of sediment transport. This is also incredibly important given the fact that, again, that this site has fill in it. So this analysis is especially important to kind of characterize, like, okay, what was the sediment transport role before the fill? And then also geotechnical analysis, which would be important not just for stream restoration, but also for wetland restoration and also for fill removal as well. And that would also be really helpful for characterizing the extent of bank erosion as well as soil stability. And also what's really great is that we have a reference stream adjacent to the site that is unfilled. And this stream can serve as a reference for restoration design. So additional sampling can be done at this stream. We could look at water quality. We could look at the historic flow regime of that stream and use it as a reference to guide restoration, as well as to compare the success of the restoration. So moving on to wetland restoration, after the fill has been removed and a channel has been successfully established, it would require regrading the rest of the site to pre-existing topography. We have existing LiDAR of what the site looked like before fill. I would recommend that a topographic survey be done for the existing conditions and then compare that to pre-existing conditions to kind of compare and see where it needs to be graded. After it's been graded, also apply at least 12 inches of topsoil with high organic content. The reason why this depth and high organic content is required is for the success of the wetland plantings. So that's the next step, is to plant native trees, shrubs, and herbaceous plants to restore a scrub shrub forested wetland that was pre-existing. And also to select the plants that would do best on a hydrologic gradient from wettest to driest. So just talking about the wetland planting zones, we've kind of come up with a draft diagram that I'll show shortly, but it breaks the site into 3 zones from wettest to driest, essentially, within the wetland restoration area. So right next to the proposed stream restoration is a riparian buffer. So this would provide stream bank stabilization, and plants here must tolerate permanently flooded conditions. So these plants would include black willow, buttonbush, and sedges, so your obligate wetland plants. Zone 2 would be further upslope, and this would be a regularly flooded zone. So plants must be adapted to moist soil conditions and tolerate some flooding. So for vegetation to be planted here, I would recommend plants such as swamp white oak, dogwoods, and sedges. So more of your facultative wet plant species. And then finally, at the uppermost end of the gradient would be rarely flooded, a rarely flooded zone. So plants in this zone must still be adapted to moist soil conditions, but they don't need to tolerate flooding. So for this zone, it would be red maple. I would recommend also chokeberries, which is also very good for wildlife habitat, and also gray dogwood. So more of those facultative plants. And just to show you a conceptual cross-section of what this would look like on an elevation gradient, on the left, you can see an area that is permanently flooded. On the first image, the cover image, you saw obviously an area that was permanently flooded in the middle of winter. So right next to it would be zone 1, that frequently flooded or riparian buffer. Moving upslope, zone 2 to regularly flooded, and zone 3 to rarely flooded. And all that would constitute then the wetland restoration area. I should also mention too that the elevations that are provided here from 20 to 30 feet AMSL are just based off of aerial imagery and topos. They're not based off of any survey grade. This is not an engineer ready for bid diagram. This is just a conceptual drawing of what that zonation would look like. But as you can see here with the illustrations, it would include a variety of trees and shrubs along that gradient. And here's a picture to show just the conceptual layout of that, overlaying an aerial. The area that's in the middle would be the area of stream restoration. And this is based off an aerial that I really did see what, in my opinion, would constitute a stream or at least a hydrologic connection. And so that would be the area to focus in on for the stream restoration. Right adjacent to it would be zone 1. Further in the middle, that more yellow-green color would be zone 2, and then that yellow zone would be zone 3. And again, this is conceptual, but this does illustrate the wetland zones on an elevation gradient and a conceptual layout. After additional analyses are done, after additional studies and surveys and an engineering design has been done, this might look a bit different. But for the purpose of what a wetland restoration plan should look like, it should include a degree of hydrologic variability on that elevation gradient. Based off of pre-existing topo, it did appear that right along the edge where it looks like there's some area with parking, that it did have steep slopes. So that would be an area to focus in on in terms of bank stabilization, and also wetland restoration there might be limited just in terms of the pre-existing topography. So to make sure that that the wetland restoration plan is successful, that it actually does exceed, performance standards are necessary. And so the performance standards are twofold in terms of fill removal and also wetland and stream restoration. For fill removal, it's really important to engage Connecticut DEEP for guidance on what performance standards to use. Rick, I don't know if you have any input in regards to what would constitute performance standards in terms of fill removal.
Sure, yeah. So, and typically what you would do for sites where you're trying to determine, how clean is clean? Where do we stop? What constitutes a successful remediation? In this case, we would be going back to one of the things Matt opened up with in the beginning, additional work to determine the depth of material and impacts. We don't necessarily have a vertical limit on the contaminants that are present in the fill. That would be something that would likely be necessary in order to determine where our endpoint is. So, typically in Connecticut, it's the remediation standard regulations. There are numerical criteria that are based on human and ecological exposure risks. And, they're published and they guide most of what, or all of what we do in Connecticut with respect to the cleanup of contaminated sites. So while I couldn't say exactly what the endpoints would be for fill removal, determining that would be done through additional investigation, determine how deep the material is, determine what portion of it might have to be left behind in support of wetland restoration. That's one of the questions and topics we beat up pretty good in the offices. How much can we leave behind, and what level of material would have a negligible impact on the surrounding environment? That's something that's going to have to be determined through additional investigation.
Thanks, Rick. And just to follow up with that in regards to wetland restoration, it's also really important to use that adjacent wetland and stream as reference site for making reasonable performance standards. As we've been talking about soil a lot, the soil should have hydric soil properties by the 3rd year after restoration is complete. At least 95% vegetated coverage by native plant species. So basically 5% of invasive species, no more than 5% of invasive plant species. Just as a guideline, at least 500 trees and shrubs per acre that are healthy and at least 18 inches tall. At least 60% coverage by non-invasive species, including 30% coverage by woody plant species across the entire site. 25-foot wide riparian zone bordering the restored stream. And again, that would be that first zone, zone 1. And the banks should have at least 60% coverage of native woody plant species, again, for bank stabilization. So to actually judge and see, are these performance standards being met, monitoring would be required. So the first thing after the site has been constructed, an as-built survey should be done. After an as-built survey has been done, there should be annual monitoring. So monitor every year for the first 5 years, at least twice during the growing season, once during late spring, early summer, and then once again in late summer, early fall. After monitoring, then submit an annual monitoring report detailing the results of the monitoring and is the site meeting performance standards. And this monitoring report would also provide recommendations if those performance standards aren't being met. Obviously, a big part of any wetland restoration plan should include invasive species control. Based off of the adjacent wetland, common reed and narrow leaf cattail are present in the adjacent wetland. So we do know that invasive species are in the area. However, we don't know what plant species were present in the wetland prior to it being filled. So there may actually be invasive species buried. The primary method for combating invasive plant species would be woody plantings. So having the woody plantings outcompete them and grow taller than them, and also, if necessary, herbicide treatment by hand application. This site is small enough that I don't think it would really warrant like a backpack sprayer or anything more complicated than that, or more intense than that. So that leads us then to future actions. So basically the next steps, we would recommend additional surveys, investigations, and analysis prior to coming to a final engineering design. These studies would include a geotechnical survey, as well as a landscape analysis that would really take into account the surrounding landscape, the watershed, the adjacent land use, a topographic survey of existing topography, and then again, comparing that to pre-existing topography. Also, a fish and wildlife habitat analysis. I think it's really important to look at how fish and wildlife could actually benefit from the wetland restoration at the site, because based off of the first image, does have potential for amphibian habitat, for fish habitat, for waterfowl. So I think that that would actually be really beneficial to do. And also water quality analysis. I know that we've been talking a lot about soil, but I think also it's really important to talk about water quality. So evaluating what is the groundwater quality, what's the surface water quality, and also how is it different from the adjacent wetland. And then that would bring you to then on engineering design. As part of the engineering design, I think that'd be really important, given that, again, there was a steep slope on the western side of the mitigation area, of the restoration area. So really looking at how to preserve those steep slopes, or if there's going to be additional slope stabilization required. That kind of also leads into stream bank and channel design, to making sure that the stream restoration is done properly, that is stable over time. And then finally, with all this restoration work and ground disturbance that's being done, an erosion and sediment control plan. So with that, that wraps up the presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions from the board?
Is that landing strip still down there? Airstrip?
A landing strip, airstrip?
Yes,
I don't actually know.
there was an airstrip down on that property.
Really?
Oh, yeah, Roberts.
Well, that's up above.
This is
No,
Roberts.
this is further south.
Oh, this is Ball's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is Falls. The next landing strip down was Bancroft's. And that
There was
in
one
South
down here
Windsor.
too, at
Yeah, but
Ball's.
that's in South Windsor.
Well, there was one in Ball's. At one time, right along the river.
Last time I was down there, it was all vegetable.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Well, we're at the point for next steps,
Okay,
right? And so we have EPA, EAP, and the Army Corps have all kind of blessed this.
okay,
report. All right. And so, as you heard, there's a lot of information still left to be found to get to an engineered plan for the actual implementation of the restoration plan. But as we laid this out, we would be at the, let's seek a proposal.
Okay,
So it may be a proposal that's, fill in these data gaps, create the plan. Implement the plan.
okay,
So it's that. That's what I see as the next step, so. I'm curious as to what goes.
I think that makes sense.
That's an interesting look.
Even though it takes a lot longer to get it out than it did put in.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, Rick, that's been put in there for a lot of years. Somewhere there's a breaking point in there where it's
In
actually,
different places.
yeah, in different
Yeah.
places before the wetlands regulations were even formed, it was still put in some of the areas of that.
Not there,
So we gotta be,
not there.
And we have
it's just, you
pictures.
know, this last line is dark green, is
Yeah.
pretty neat.
And that could be something too, if we can look at the historic.
Yeah.
Information and say, where was it in 2015?
Yeah.
And bring it forward before, you know.
Because we really,
There was a farm road that went down there.
yeah, there was.
Yeah, that was down right back of.
Right back of the green.
The donut.
Yeah,
Dunkin'
well, yeah,
Donuts.
right, you go right on the end of the greenhouses on the south end, right down in there.
On the north end, right behind Dunkin' Donuts. There used to be a farm, that was a Rigo's farm, and there was a dairy barn there.
Yep.
On the top, right at the end of
You
the
go
road.
back further than I did,
A lot of history.
but you know,
So
but
then-
this green out here, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
Like Island there,
Mhm.
that's the real new stuff. A lot of this has been here for a lot of years. Which doesn't make it right, but
Anything to add,
Nope.
So then what do you need from us, if anything, to move forward?
Yes, you would. Go her, you know. Is there something more you wanna see?
I don't think we could ever get to the original topography.
Yeah.
right?
No,
We're never gonna
right.
get there, we're just gonna get as close as we can, and I think this gets that.
Yeah,
You get some pictures?
well, you probably got it.
I probably do have some.
yeah,
Bring them.
I think what they showed is great.
I think they're right on got the nail right on the head. As long as they don't overkill it. We need
The difficulty with that site too, when we opened up those test pits is you have a lot of material there that's very heavy and you went and it got pitched into very soft material. So it's anybody's guess how long it's been there. It looks like a very short amount of time, but because of the tree cover, as we showed in the beginning of the presentation, but I mean, if you factor in that there were softer soils there, I mean, there's stuff that could have been placed there and it just kept taking material because the material was so spongy and soft.
That's it, it contaminates the original wetland soils with this piece of concrete that just goes right down through it. And
Pictures of
everything
the
slows up.
1936 flood of that
Yeah,
down there.
Bring them in.
probably. It's
Package heads and everything.
it's a challenge, I think they're right on,
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're right with it.
we live right across the street.
Mr. Levin, do you have anything that you would like to add or make a comment on?
No, but thank you for asking. I'll discuss the situation with my client and talk to your counsel after the meeting.
Okay,
Thanks.
yep, thank you.
Thanks, good presentation. Very informative.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt, thank you, Reggie. So do we need
Between
to
the
make a
bogs
motion or
and-
something?
In the swamp.
If you,
If
it
you
would be
escape
helpful to have
and what-
a record.
Just
Through
to,
the door.
Yeah.
Forward to the next.
Nobody talks about
Improve the
that.
concept.
yeah,
Actually, you're wrong, that's working on it. Well, make a motion. Yeah, we're still gonna meet, right?
yeah,
Okay, I'll make a motion to
we're making a motion.
make a motion to approve the concept that Ty and Bond is working on and go ahead, keep going.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome.
We'll get them home.
No, we don't.
All right, so that's the first one, then the second is the invasive species control for 3.
Isn't that this timely, right?
Yeah, that's a timely
It's
report, right?
very timely, right on the, you gotta have your invasive species control. So you remember out at Thompson Road, they created or restored the wetland after they remediated the contaminated soil out of it.
They made it better.
Yeah. So they had to do, the commission asked them to do 3 years of invasive species control. So they went out this spring, identified Asiatic bittersweet, multiflora rose, marked where they were, and they also identified patches of garlic moss. And summer activities went out and mowed down the invasive species and applied some herbicide. Went back late summer and they concluded that the controls were effective and there were no further controls necessary for the winter. So, and I have heard that some stuff like Japanese knotweed, you have to go through a couple seasons of that in order to,
Get rid of it in a couple years.
like an ocean.
Yeah, I had to patch it on my previous property, and for 10 years I tried everything, and I was researching it, I tried every single thing, and I got it to the point where it was barely noticeable, but as soon as I moved out, it's all back.
Yeah.
You left that little tiny piece that long that you
So,
mowed with a mower and that, and it took root.
Yeah.
Off it goes.
you know, Matt mentioned like the backpack sprayers, that's what they do on the right of ways.
Yeah. That's what I do on our property to keep that knotweed.
So that report's in here, they've put quite a few pictures in. And I was happy to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with those, if they're not maintained, then within 3 years, it looks like you never get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that place is pretty darn good.
Yeah. So then the next one is 27 Reservoir Road staff memo.
Okay,
And then what are we gonna pay for?
so we have received a few inquiries from Mr. Sepatelli with regard to 27 Reservoir Road and the construction of the playground. Concerns of compliance with the approved site plan. We had some other questions about whether or not special use permit for excavation was necessary. And some other questions about some stockpiles in regulated area, and that's really what is in Danielle's memo. It summarizes her site visit after she got a call from Joe Sauerhoppers of one of those torrential rain days, and he's like, "Come down."
Yes.
And he put some more mitigative measures in, and then there was questions. There was 2 stockpiles out there. One, she had him put silt fence around. The other, he said, was going to be gone in short order. And from what I understand, they were trucking some material out of there to get that site tied up.
Okay.
So she was satisfied when she went out for the material that was stored. There were 2 smaller piles of processed stone and mulch, and she didn't feel that they needed erosion control. Okay. That's what that was.
I guess my only comment on that is, and I've said this for, I don't know, 20 years. Whatever the town requires other people to do, they should make sure they're doing without being asked. Right, so we should always be making sure we're following the plan and
Yeah.
using the erosion control and.
Correct.
How about all the work they're doing up on Wells Road? Did they ever come before us? The public works?
For the,
Yeah.
yeah,
Put it out
Yes.
in culvert.
for the drainage.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought
That's a meeting you missed.
Yeah,
I missed that one.
that one might have been during COVID when we were online.
Yeah.
But think about that, there's a road by bike path, and it's on my bike path.
Wait, can we do that afterwards?
Sure, sure.
Finish 27 Reservoir, so I think we're good with that one, so then the last one is the added agenda item.
Right. We went out to gravel pit solar. For it was Rebecca, Danielle, myself, Jay Ursery, and Mr. Botticello. We met up with Johnny Gravel. And Mohammed, who is the, I can't remember his last name, I don't think he ever told us.
I don't, yeah, I
but
think so.
He's the site construction manager out there. We went out to the back of the site, where they had a significant erosion that needed to be addressed. Within the project site, they actually extended their project boundaries in order to create a detention basin, regrade the crater and stabilize it with riprap. And so that's all installed, the site is stable, they have a third-party inspector who goes out to do inspections to make sure they're in compliance with their stormwater permit, their state permit. And so things look good over there, with the exception of some scouring and erosion that had happened outside of the project boundary. Yes. So the gentleman who's doing the third party inspections said can't leave it you know, he has to note it, and he asked that Gravel Pit reach out to the wetlands agency in town, and that's where Rebecca and Danielle and I went out with them to see. So we walked down the big riprap embankment down into the woods to see the scour. It's kind of like a cut channel from previous erosion, which as you follow down in the woods, it just kind of levels out, and it doesn't appear that the sediment makes its way to Catch Brook. It's kind of like it falls out in this level area. But with all the improvements with the detention basin and the riprap, things are stable, the groundwater flows, the rate is lower, the amount is lower, that whole place is covered with clover.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it doesn't appear as if anything new is going to impact. It looks pretty, like, eventually it'll all grow in, is what the consensus was out in the field. So at this time, we weren't asking for any additional action, but should future inspections indicate something else is going on, additional mitigation would be warranted. So I'm here to put that on the record.
Yeah, I'll say, just from living next to there, and riding horses and mountain bikes and hiking and walking through there in the last 35 years, this is the first time it's ever been where the erosion was controlled. Those cuts have been going into the Catch Brook since I've been in Connecticut, and
From the farming.
And it's happening in a number of other fields currently in East Windsor, particularly some tobacco fields that I was going to bring up later in the meeting. So it is also, I would have to say, the first time in 100 years that field has not had is just all clover.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it's been tobacco for probably 100 years.
Yeah.
And this is the first time since then. It's like, I drive by it all the time. I run by it all the time. It was pure white clover as far as the eye could see this summer. So, yeah, I do agree that the erosion controls are working.
Oh, yeah.
It looks really nice out there. So it's on the record.
It's on the record.
We're good.
Yeah, you were down in the back, coming in off of Windsorville Road, going through the gate and then off to the left.
No, we went on a Foundation Road.
Oh, you were down on that side. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't go on the northern side.
Also, you're on the south
It's quite a
side of Catch Brook.
site.
Yeah.
They have named roads with the
Yeah.
fire department. It said 40s.
Erosion there, you got some other up there.
Yeah,
Right by where the power lines cross on Wapping Road.
Oh, yeah,
Down
there.
in there, from all our wonderful people with their ATVs.
so that's what I'm saying, they didn't stop that any?
Yeah, no, that's done.
Is that-
There was some.
No, it's not.
It's just
Down right.
No, they don't
They're still in the trails. They don't
Yeah.
come from Springfield
You know,
anymore.
yeah, well, they don't come from our side anymore. They used to come from the south. They used to go right down Rice Street, right into there. None of that
Yeah, the
happens.
South
anymore.
Windsor side.
And the whole Windsorville roadside, that all that's done.
And they were putting up perimeter fence too.
Yeah, once they get
Yes.
that perimeter fence up, it's gonna make a big.
Yeah, by the end of December, I think they said that perimeter fence would be.
That's a lot of fence to put up.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, what did they say? Was it 35,000? Posts for the racking?
Something,
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's interesting how they're doing it along Plantation Road. They're using. It's a pressure treated post, but it looks like a tobacco post. They're using round posts for the fencing. And then they're using the regular aluminum for all the rest of it, but just, kind of looks a little bit better. But the fence is interesting because it's not the chain link that they use at the other sites. It's a square mesh, like a wildlife fence. It's like, it's.
Oh, like a cattle fence.
Yeah, but it's like a 4x4 and it's
Yeah.
light aluminum. Yeah, and it's gotta be, it's at least 6 foot high, it could be 8 feet high. It's high.
Yeah.
It's really surprised.
he
It's
said
like a
8.
deer fence.
It could be. Well, that'll probably help the snow blowing across the road too, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Act like a snow fence.
Will.
Which is actually a good thing.
All right, so nothing more for agent reviews and decisions. We don't have any conferences. I don't think there's been anything for correspondence that's come through, so open general board discussion. I think you said you had a couple of things you wanted to.
No, yeah, I want to bring up, I was going down Windsorville Road. During the latest rainstorm that we had.
Yeah.
And there was a river coming out of the woods from the tobacco field. Like a river. It was 10 feet wide. It was like rushing water, all topsoil from the tobacco field there on Windsorville Road, going directly into that black spruce bog right next to the Quonset hut. Like there's a little, as you go around the corner there's a little culvert and there's a little where the road.
That's Wapping.
That's
Well,
why.
excuse me, Wapping.
Thank you, that's what I was gonna.
Say, Winterville, when you get to south.
Comes down the bank, goes down
Yeah.
Wapping Road and right into the
Always
Wapping
has.
Bog. So. It's, and you can see from standing on Wapping Road, because I stopped, drove back and looked.
I saw.
And there's a giant pond that forms in the tobacco field and then it exits through the woods and comes down the embankment onto Wapping Road and goes down the road there.
We
into-
addressed that
By the
one,
Quonset hut.
we addressed that one other time with the town, and they were supposed to do something about it, but the
Well,
town never did it.
Leonard couldn't get the easement.
Oh, they
There was
couldn't
an
get it.
easement he needed and he couldn't get it.
Oh,
You were on the board, I think.
And I vaguely remember
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
There was somebody that wouldn't let him have the easement. They needed.
we should, I mean,
isn't that all night?
Right now.
that's a,
No.
like it's a black spruce bog, so that's why I bring it up because it's like one of 2 in town,
Oh, it's only 3 in the state.
3 in the state, yeah.
And we got
Yeah.
2.
Got one in, off Norton Farm.
So we don't want to be filling it up with tobacco
That's
soil.
not a serious problem.
Just probably carrying a bunch of fertilizer
trying to
and
stay
insecticides and
alive.
pesticides and.
Yeah.
I mean, that washes all the way from the old gravel pit in there and it was twists up around into those fields. And they put tobacco cloth in there and everything to try and stop it. They
Yeah.
slowed it up, but again, there's no more tobacco cloth.
Yeah, I don't know, is that tiled, that field's not tiled probably, huh?
Probably not, because it's all
No,
gravel.
It's all gravel.
Yeah.
So it's not tied.
Yeah, all that gravel's in the road too.
Yeah, not gravel, it's just a silt.
First time I noticed something was going on, I was going by with my bike and I was going by, rocks like they were the size of potatoes in the road. Where's this coming from? And then it just happened to come by when it was pouring. It was like,
The rest of it's going down the red fields.
And let us know. Okay. And then you
Up
also said,
on the
well,
top, I thought Molnite owned that.
He did used to own it, he doesn't own it. I think
So
that's
that
what's-
project where they did the big, like, I guess it's a box culvert or something under the
Yeah.
road there. They need to look at their erosion control.
okay,
And I mean, I really just gotta finish it, like, it looks like it's got the gravel, the subsoil on, and it needs something to finish it up with. Cause it's just gonna rain into that,
Where's
okay.
that?
right there.
On Wells Road,
Yeah,
Where
where Gene Bancroft,
they just did that.
where Gene Bancroft used to live.
because they
I mean, it
did
looks
catch basins.
fabulous, other than that, just
Yeah.
either
Stabilize them.
finish it or stabilize it or both.
Yeah.
What
You
is
see the size of the drop manhole they put in there?
Yeah.
Monsters. Expecting some real flow there.
No way it keeps up.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised at how big a project that was.
You gotta realize all those houses, if you're headed towards Enfield on the right side, there's a big French drain that runs down the back of all those houses and dumps into that ravine. Right behind what used to be Bancroft's.
Yeah.
And there's a 6-inch pipe in there, not a 4, a 6, and it flows, let me tell you. I hit it.
Anything else for general board discussion?
I got one.
Okay.
And with all this moisture we've been receiving from the sky, I was really tempted to try and walk across the Scannick River. You talk about erosion, and Wapping Road, well, somebody north of us is. You can't believe how bad that is. You really need to look at it after a heavy rain event. Somewhere up the line, there's a serious erosion problem. And I
Eat
think
your coffee every time it rains.
and you could almost walk across it, it's so brown, I mean, it's really, it seems to be getting worse, but of course, this year, oh,
It's been doing that for years and years.
yeah, but you know what? It's
up in Melrose.
It's to the north, I think it's further north than that,
But, no.
I think it's right after Town Farm Road.
We actually, AHRC has been doing a water quality study there for, it's gotta be 15 years now, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
And I don't know if we post all that with the town, but we get an annual report of that.
Yeah.
HRC does.
There's
and,
gotta be something you can do.
I used to keep it, I used to send it forward, so I don't know if it's, but I don't, we should get it to the town.
There's probably all record of it somewhere. So
Yeah.
just forward it along.
But there was a couple points where a bunch of it comes in through Broadbrook, and that's when, like, why when the Walmart was put in. We had the mitigation done over at the reservoir because we were trying to clean up the water
Yeah,
coming
that cleans
this way
that up.
from there. So there may be some still from there, but there was 2 points. There was one in Enfield, right? Was a
At
big
least two.
issue. Yeah,
There's at least.
Almost an Enfield, almost, right on the border.
right on the edge of Enfield, yeah, is where there's a
Big wash. out there,
non-source
too.
point.
Used to be, I don't know. if
Right
that-
where the ranch property used to be.
Logging in there too. Cutting wood and stuff. I mean, they were cutting up wood.
Yeah, I don't know what wetlands can necessarily do about that, because it's not really coming from East Windsor. For the most cases, it is coming from up north.
I think we can pass the holler along,
but-
because we're
Yeah.
the wonderful recipients of. It's somebody not doing their job.
If we can get a picture of it, we should definitely send it up the wire.
Buckhorn Brook goes
Muddy
in
water.
there too, in Enfield, Buckhorn Brook. That goes out through the golf course and goes.
Yep.
Across Town Farm
Yep,
Road,
yep.
and that empties into the.
There's not much washout around there, though. I mean, the
Well,
golf
that-
courses,
that
I
was
think
all-
when it gets down after Raffia's and.
Yeah.
Down to the town landfill.
Hmm.
Where the real problem starts. I've been told off the record that.
Well, you're still on the record, so watch what you say.
Well, I can't say who said it. I don't even remember who said it, that
Yeah, you remember.
there's some retention ponds there that have failed.
Hmm.
That's why I run, you know, that's time we need to protect East Windsor.
We got one ourselves.
I have something to bring up just as an idea. So I'm starting with the plan of conservation and development revisions. And one of the things I thought would be worthwhile, and maybe we can get into the next round of SIP, next summer fall, is having a project to evaluate the wetland systems in town. And really look at the areas we want to protect and maybe regulate differently than.
Okay.
Just a thought. I know there are some times that do that, like they have. High priority wetlands that they really want.
I have one.
Very
In
conscious.
connection with that. Is along the floodplain, when they established that floodplain. That was about in the 50s. Maybe early 60s, they established the government. And they established, that was before FEMA.
Yeah,
The Army Corps of Engineers, and you were not supposed to build anything down there. You weren't supposed to, you could farm it. You weren't put any fill in anything, but, and people forget that. Everybody that was a property owner was notified about that, but it's changed hands. And I would think that the government or the state or the town should notify the landowners on the Connecticut River that they can't put any fill in there or build any buildings.
It might save some people. That's a good idea. That might save some people
A lot of money.
a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't understand why this isn't passed on.
Some years ago,
And we could do it in our town if no one else does it in other places.
yeah.
Maybe the thing to do.
Some years ago, we sent a letter to all the abutters of the Blue Ditch, because everybody was dumping their clippers, and it was
Yep.
making flooding worse.
yeah.
And we sent a letter to them that they had to clean it out. Problem was, we never followed up about the cleanup, but we did send a letter out. And then we changed hands a couple times.
Cause
You
we
know.
sent letters out for, didn't we send letters out for something else too? You just said lawn clippings and I feel like that
We
triggered
did do
something
that
about,
Terrace
For,
escarpment.
yeah, maybe that's what we were doing it for.
We did, when I first started, we met with a couple of different groups on the terraces.
Okay.
Issues, Scantic plan, I remember right. We also, I picked up on something you had done before with the notifying townwide, really.
Yeah.
about
Grass
Grass
clippings and,
clippings not going.
yeah. Cause it's gonna be that time for leaves soon, where people are just gonna be dumping their leaves and all that stuff, so it might, now might be a good time to put another notice out there.
Well, the town
But-
should have a pickup like something.
But falling back
Yeah,
up,
right.
that's not our problem, but falling back up what he was saying, is it not on the deeds if they're in?
The way they're spending it, I think we do.
It should be, but
I thought there,
we have an ordinance for the farm. If you've got a property, a house property within so many feet of a farm, active farm, then it goes right on their deed with notification. So we ran into that up in Melrose. Couple of people squawking and crying about the cows when the
Well-
cows were there and they got a right to be there.
We could run a query for everybody who's got property in the E2, so.
yeah. Yep,
Speaking of queries and whatnot, I've been meaning to bring this up. So we were talking about on the Board of Selectmen, allocating funds here and there for CIP, and we were gonna reallocate some of the, recommendations from CIP, and we've been putting money into the GIS account every CIP. I think it's time that we think about how we could improve our GIS system, whether it would be, I don't know. I think you have probably have maybe some ideas, but
well, we're doing a wetlands delineation project, so what you guys have been going back 10
There'd be a
years?
wetlands overlay on all.
10 years, they've been going back and pulling plans, so.
and I thought another thing we could do is we should get a and I don't know what, a handheld device where we can mark things, and so we can mark storm waters, sewers that go into, that aren't part of into the sewer system, that are going into. Yeah, they're not going to stormwater, they're not going to the sewer plant, the ones that are going to
Stormwater.
The river.
the river, the tributary,
Now, holes are all mapped out. We've already mapped the GI, the.
and that's all loaded, we could, that's there.
It's behind a login on that geo right now, for the town staff to use, because they haven't verified it themselves, but it's
Okay.
been mapped. So,
Well, I love that stuff, yeah, whatever, I mean, I think we should really, before that money gets, reallocated to a gazebo somewhere. Which they're trying to do, they want gazebos for the park, right?
The other thing is Lining all the overlay zones that are with you.
Yeah.
It's very hard to have a conversation with someone. But
It shows this, but it's
just, yeah,
really on your neighbor's property.
it is
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, you're
It's
right.
not-
we're working
Yeah.
on that.
Well, and then they're not accurate anyway, those floodlines, those are what, 1 inch equals 10,000 feet or something? We ran into this over in Manchester. Where the flood mapping was off, seriously, we had to file an amended map with the town.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's for, it's
To build a
it's like,
precast
well,
company.
you gotta go check this because it shows like your club,
Right,
right.
or
Yeah, but
your.
a lot of that doesn't get plotted back onto the map
No.
as the accurate up to date.
Yeah, and I don't know what we gotta do if we need to hire a consultant to pump all that stuff in there, or if there's like, if we need to own equipment that'll help us get the data we need, but those are the types of things that I think that we should think about and try to,
We just need another $8 million in the budget every year.
not enough to do the things we need to do, I think.
I think one of the
Really?
coolest things I've seen so.
I haven't seen the board
recently
education
Here's
presentation.
construction out there at the old walking sand and gravel. Gravel pit. Danielle and I were out there doing an inspection and he wanted to know where he was in relation to the phases. Would need to stop and get zoning permit. So he could pull up the approved map, which was geolocated on his cell phone, and it traveled with us. So we can go exactly up to the embankment and see where on the map he was, which was fascinating.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
to mention all the other stuff, because the whole site's all
Troublesome.
geolocated and into the machinery, into the computer, so. The operator essentially pulls a lever and it's doing everything based on
Yeah, and when you guys are doing your stuff, I know the building inspector goes out and has plans and stuff. Do you guys have the ability to pull up that kind of stuff in the field?
No, not like he does. He's got a program called Field Wire, so he has his like tablet,
Yep.
so he can do that. And then he doesn't take any paper anymore, so he's got the large, it's like, not that big, it's like a TV screen. So he's reviewing his plans and then he just inserts all his notations right there and can email it off to someone. Which is pretty slick.
Yeah, but when you're in the field out like they are and such, you don't have a fixed point to reference from. You need like a benchmark to start with.
Yes,
got-
yeah.
or-
that's all that operates.
Yeah, he's got his because he's got the plots of the house already on his plans.
Mhm.
To go out in the field with this, you don't have a plotted.
No, but you would
benchmark.
have our map
Yeah.
layers
Yeah.
and GPS capability to, you could.
Yeah.
You could be, you know, put a dot on
Put a
the
pin
map.
down.
This is where
Yeah.
I found this, look,
Pretty
and you
close.
could click on it and then a picture would come up that she took. You know, that's like, we have all that. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff now.
They're working on it, yeah.
So anyway, that was just my point. We should spend some money on the GIS to put it to good use.
There's a request.
Partially are.
We have it last night.
Thanks.
Come to CIP.
Anything else for general board discussion? If not, we will move on to public participation. We have two public tonight. Would anybody like to speak? All right, moving along to executive session, which we have nothing for, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Kathy seconds, all in favor,
Paperwork.
all in favor,
Aye.
eyes around.
I-
8:31, Peg.
She quit.
No, she's still there. She's just muted.
Looks like that's gonna be a real project down there on South Main Street.
There's not a chance